Hi, folks. We are here with our wonderful guest, Russ Stevens. Russ, thank you for being on the show again, man.
Thanks for having me again. This is great.
So if you guys have been listening to us for, I guess about a year, because the last time we did it, we were in quarantine when we did it. The last time it was like the beginning of quarantine, right? The last season that you were on the show.
I was actually on right before that.
Really?
Yes. Because I think you had gone to Cobra Club beforehand.
Yes.
Right. So that would have to be pre-quarantine.
Wow. I do remember you being on, were you in our apartment doing this?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
This is
Wow.
so fucked up, Russ. Okay. So when I'm thinking about this, right, I'm thinking of where it happened. It was at our table in our little living room. And then you were sitting across from us. But in my mind, you are on a screen like you are now, because I can't even fathom being that close to a friend.
Oh no, I totally.
My brain doesn't even work that way. Well, welcome back to the show virtually, Russ. We're very happy to have you. You are our favorite challenge fan and friend.
Mm-hmm.
So we just want to know what you think about Double Agents. Have you been watching?
Yeah, first impressions. Give us your thoughts.
Okay. So I have to preface everything I say with it's a challenge, so I love it. Because it's a challenge and it's back, and it's maybe been the one piece of televised content I've been most excited to have in a world where I'm over TV, I'm over screens, so I love having it. But I just have an issue in my head plotting out this season. One person going home every week is driving me insane. There's 7,000 people on this show.
So many.
So if I'm to believe, if they're gonna have a single elimination a billion times, I'm in for that. But I believe they won't. I believe there'll be a purge, in which case you introduce 10 new people to a season, and I'm never gonna get to know half of them. So that's my preliminary frustration, is I don't think I'm gonna get a single elimination every week. I think eventually they're just gonna like, get this dead weight out of here, and it's a waste of everybody's time.
Interesting. I wasn't even thinking about a purge. I just assumed that like once there were 10 skulls, then TJ would be like, okay, the final starts and the other 20 of you that don't have skulls have to go home. But there could be a purge. That is a good point.
I think there will be, because 20 people just standing there at the end is too many for TV purposes. So part of me thinks, okay, there's got to be some kind of purge at some point. But I don't know. I'm just trying to game out the season, and that's getting in the way of my enjoyment, because it feels really different. It's like, oh, it's a men's day, or oh, it's a women's day. I feel like that can be wonky. So
it got wonky on the last episode because of Nicole, but they never said like, hey, since Nicole went home for an elbow injury or whatever it was, it's a guy's day again. And so Devin was on the chopping block
at the end of the episode, but we spent the whole episode being like, what the hell is gonna happen?
But it just didn't make any sense rules wise. I always have a little issue with the challenge rules. They don't
faster and looser than usual,
right? And they don't establish that. All they say is like, wow, anything can happen. What's TJ gonna do? What's TJ gonna do? But I do like that there is a set of rules that like everybody knows in the challenge. You can't do that because that's an automatic, you're going to get booted. Because on Survivor, we like to watch Survivor. There's a little leeway with Jeff on Survivor, like when they can barter for things, like when they go to challenges. Sometimes they're like, hey, Jeff, we don't need this flint. We actually lost all our beans. Can we go get some more beans from them? And he's like, okay. They don't do that on the challenge ever. It's never like, hey, since Nicole went home, like, what about it being a guy's day again? And then him being like, all right, let's do it. It just happens. And then later in interviews, they try to clean it up a little bit. And to me, that's a kind of it cheats, because I take this very seriously.
Me too.
So I want there to be rules, and break them, please break them. But rules are there, so it's fun when you break them, not just like, oh, it's just this amorphous, show.
Not to talk about comedy, but it's really like when you have a joke, if the premise isn't clear, then you might not catch the punchline because you're still trying to figure out the premise. So it's like, give me a clear premise so that I can then enjoy enjoy that surprise, you know?
Yes. And I feel like with production maybe the last season, this season and last season, I feel like I find myself I'm an adult. Like, I'm just going to say that right up top. I'm a grown up. I should understand the show. I should understand where it's going. I should understand the actual challenges themselves. And I find myself like, I don't know, I'll just watch it and I'll figure it out. Maybe they said something and I missed it. And as it relates to just regular stuff like eliminations now, I'm like, who's up? But how and why is CT still here? Like, I just have questions.
Well, they've established that every season, like the rules are going to change and it's going to get more intense. And so I guess we're talking about it now. We can just jump right into this conversation. How do you feel about this double agents theme and the set of rules that comes with it? Because it was super confusing when CT stayed. I didn't hate it. I'll be honest. I thought it was enough of a wrench in the situation where I always do, like when people throw a whole bunch of people under the bus or a person under the bus, and through happenstance, that person actually is going to come back. And now they all have to deal with this person walking around their house for another week or however many days till the next one. So I like that I like house tension. You know what I mean? I'm a reality fan, you know? Yeah. So I didn't hate it, but how do you feel about this double agent theme altogether?
So the theme, I like the idea of infiltrating another team because it, like, now the stuff you've done in another team or your strategy, like Kyle and Cam, for example, like Kyle infiltrating is a really great game move. It's also good TV. Mm-hmm. Where I have issues with the team swapping and the flip flopping is, and not so much with CT staying, because I love that he's there. I don't believe that because you don't have a partner, you can't compete. Like, I that bothers me. Mm-hmm. So it's like you get a week, like that's actually, for losing, you win.
Yeah.
You get a new partner and you don't have to do anything. And I don't like it when somehow losing makes your life better.
Right. Do you think
a good point.
Ashley has had that gripe as well? For some reason I kind of tune out when the rules are when TJ.
My gripe was just that CT wasn't competing, but I like the way you phrased it when you said, I don't like when losing helps you win.
Right.
I hadn't really put it in that context. I just knew something was off. So I like that you phrased it that way.
It took me a while to figure it out because I had to go back in my mind and think, and I watch every episode twice for no reason.
Oh my God.
You're the best.
I love it.
But I'm like, okay, I like CT. He's slimmed down, so he's more in the game. A CT that's more in the game is something I like, but he lost, and he's still here, and he doesn't even have to compete at a disadvantage. And now, if they made him compete in that next challenge at a disadvantage, awesome. I'm cool with that. He would have done well anyway, probably just working by himself. But I just, that's the part that gets me, is I'm like, how did this guy get like a total life upgrade just by doing nothing? Not to say that Big T is good, but people like her, so she's not going anywhere. So, like, how?
I mean,
he really lucked out.
He did luck out. I mean, because a lot of the beginning of all of these elimination games is how can you make yourself invisible for the first 3/4 of the game?
Yes.
And CT is such a huge target. Having CT with two champions, together, he was partnered with Ashley. Ashley already has a target on her back. She's a good competitor, and she's kind of a dickhead. So it's like, Big T, she's sweet. Her social game is great. She is not a threat competitively. People think they'll wipe the floor with her during any sort of an elimination or even the final, and it does downgrade the target on CT's back. So you're absolutely right. I mean, this dude got a life upgrade. Not to mention the original point here, he gets a pass the entire week, which is. I like when, you mentioned, I don't like when anybody loses and it's better for them.
Yes.
I agree, unless it's a completely strategized move on the player's point, like throwing a challenge to get somebody off.
Absolutely.
Well, that's fun.
If you're able to work that as a loss, then I'm like, ooh, that's great. But when the rules itself allow losers to continue and actually thrive, it's interesting. I'm sure they thought about this, and I'm sure that this is going to get a lot more interesting when there's less than 50 people running around my screen every Wednesday night. When there's 20, it's going to be a little bit more interesting, because like, do I want this person to have a pass next week in the challenge? So maybe I shouldn't vote this team in. So, you know, there could be being able, I mean, it's probably a little too raw, a little too early to figure out exactly. What do you think about the like just the special agents 007 theming?
Whatever. Like, I think they took war as far as they could take it. Like it was War of the Worlds, and I'm assuming Total Madness was supposed to be War of the Worlds 3, and then they just said, Total Madness, because every challenge was you gotta take a bomb and detonate a thing. So now they're like, well, spies. I don't need all that. Just, it doesn't have to be a theme. You could just double, like, it doesn't have to be such a, and I know they think that's good for TV. I don't care. The show is like half a sport to me. So just put the people in a place, have them do the double dealing. I don't need the name. I don't need the double O'Nelly or the double Big T or the whatever. I don't need any of it. Just give me the show.
Yeah, the challenge is its own theme.
Yeah, like that's the thing. It's like they're overproducing and trying to sell me on a product that I buy already.
Right.
Like I bought it.
There used to be themes, and they kind of made more sense just to what the game was, you know, like what was it, what's the one with the dating? X's, you know, and
Rivals,
and free agents, you know, makes sense to me. But like the idea that the theme is just, it's going to be pretty much the same game. We're just going to put a new skin over it, and there's maybe a few tweaks on the mechanics of how people go home.
I don't need
I don't either. I mean, it is what, 36 seasons in, so it's just like, I guess they're trying to figure it out, and they've done very well with the ratings and stuff like that. And I do have to say, like, some of the sequences feel like an action movie. I mean, they really do. They've decided to go in that direction. I don't want to get too deep into this. I personally think that takes away from the gameplay of what I'm seeing, because of the way that they shoot it, where it's like explosions and bombs going off during challenges. I start to lose the action. I'm like, who's winning? Who's losing?
And everyone's dressed in the same color.
Meanwhile,
which is really confusing.
I'm watching another competition show, which is basically the same show, just on an island. And there's literally moving like on a platform with an egg on the spoon against another person. And I'm on the edge of my seat. Like, is this person going to get the egg in their basket before the other person? Because I'm seeing the action. And when the egg starts to move off the spoon, they have a super close in. And I'm like, the music gets crazy. And I'm like, is the egg going to fall off the spoon? You know, so
way more compelling.
And they're also not going for teenagers anymore. MTV is going for older women now. That is their demo that they're attempting to get. They want older women. Who, you know,
what's older?
More loyal viewing audience, apparently.
Right. They want the people who still watch Jersey Shore. They want that VH1 reality audience to be firmly placed into the MTV reality audience. And I think they have a handle on the young boys of the world, but just getting to, I don't know. I'm complaining too much about a show that I love, so maybe we should back off a tiny bit.
But I think that's the thing is I like this show so much that I feel like I have the right to air my grievances.
Yeah.
Like, don't need the bombs, and you also don't have to reinvent the wheel and make a challenge that hurts people. Like
my God.
The bus one last week, or the truck. Okay, so you're on a truck and it's the same thing you've always done before. It's just two people wrestling. That's fine. Just wrestling on the ground is okay. And having harnesses is okay. And having two people going at the same time isn't okay, because now I can't see anything. And the rules, I had no idea what constituted winning. I thought whoever landed first lost, but it was whoever was on it last won. But that's a stupid game.
Stupid. And two people get hurt.
Yeah.
Stupid, and people get hurt.
That's a dumb game. You want to frostbite people in the water like last season, you know, whatever. I think that's an irresponsible game too. But you guys have there's enough games in the history of the show that you can just start recycling some of the old ones. They haven't hung anybody off of water in 2 seasons. So maybe hang some people over some water, drop them into something.
Right. Yeah, they used to swim. They used to swim places and try to grab things off the bottom of the ground and then put it in there, like, where people are trying to figure out how to hold their breath and swimming. They don't do that much anymore either, because they're always going to these like exotic locations where it's freezing. They've moved from places that are super hot to places that are freezing for some reason.
I don't get.
I don't really understand that either.
Especially considering everybody is attractive.
That's what I'm saying.
Wearing parkas.
Right. At least I guess there's a pool at this place,
MTV
right?
needs to hire us. We're gonna change the show. Okay, we have some.
They at least have pools and hot tubs that are like not in a compound this season. So
they think in their mind that we want to see them be uncomfortable and suffer. So they're like, make them cold and put them in danger. And it's like, I want to just see them be hot and try and solve puzzles. Really.
Sure.
And sometimes kiss.
Save that for the final. Like the final has always been crazy hard. I was just watching Battle of the Seasons on Pluto. Like that's a really hard final. They had to like stand and hold a camel and not sleep, and they're screaming at Sam. Like,
oh man,
that was tough.
They beat the shit out of Sam. They beat the shit out of Sam. Frank and fucking Zach, real pieces of shit.
Super toxic.
People don't. Zach never had a good season where he wasn't doing something that should have made you not a fan of Zach, all the way from his Real World season.
Yeah,
I mean, the only thing that got him a little bit of credit was the fact that he buddied up with Frank eventually, and Frank is an out gay man. So it's like, oh, look, I'm not a horrible straight white dude. I am friends with this guy who I want to fist fight at all times. So
he's
it's like
horrible.
He's a terrible guy.
Look, I found another misogynist.
Frank is a terrible guy. He was like beating up Sam in that season.
He like pushes her down when they're running.
Anyway,
that's what I was watching 2 days ago, and I was like, "This is bad. Why am I still watching it?"
It's bad. And then I just watched a clip on YouTube, not to get too far away, but where Knight, God rest his soul, just slaps Frank at a reunion. It slaps him across the face. It might have been that season.
Wow.
But boy, this show has gone through a lot. But anyway, okay. So why don't we before we get into going through some of the cast, and I'll tell the people watching and listening, what we're gonna do is go through people who are not on this show in the last season or two. That's who we're gonna talk about, because you've heard our opinions on everybody else so many times. So we'll just do that and we'll see where that takes us. But how did you feel before we do that, Russ? How did you feel about the first, what were there, 3 episodes or, a couple episodes?
I like it. I'm into it. I just really hope that as the cast whittles down a little bit, I get to know who some of these people are. Because I know some of them from the outside, but I like Leo. I'm curious to see like what this guy can do. And he hasn't really gotten his screen time. So I'm just hoping, I'm waiting for the show to kind of get into that meaty center.
Me too. I can't wait. It had been rumored for a couple seasons that Leo Rush was going to be on the challenge.
Nick was very excited.
I was very excited for that. As a pro wrestling fan. So I just feel like this show is built for a guy like that. Not only, I mean, we'll get into it when we actually get to Leo, because Leo's one of the people we're talking about. So I'm gonna, for those of you who are listening on our podcast, we love you so much. You are our hardcore fans. But just to let you know, there is video that you can find on our YouTube, and we're going to actually show some of the pictures. We're going to show the picture that we're talking about. So if we're ever talking about the physical appearances of anybody, that's because we're looking at them. So here is Amber Barzotra. Okay. And I believe Amber Barzotra is from a season of Big Brother that I have not watched.
She is from a season that I did watch.
Ooh, is it 16?
I think it's either 6. I believe that's the season that Cody wins. Paulie's brother.
Well, Cody wins this. Cody wins this. The current season.
He gets second.
I believe. What's her name? Oh, who won?
Maybe it was 16 or 18. It's It's in the higher teens.
Needless to say, when I was marathoning the show over the summer, I watched her season. She was pretty good at Big Brother comps, which doesn't really translate as well to the challenge, but it's something. She had a really weird relationship with this guy named Beast Mode Cowboy. It was his own. He gave himself the nickname.
I'm sure.
And he was like always doing things for her in the game despite her asking him to. And it was a real kind of gross, toxic. A lot of old reality doesn't hold up.
Yeah,
But
it's tough to
yeah, but
watch.
this was just a few years ago. And she's like, I don't like this guy. And I never said I did. And I don't know why he just won't leave me alone.
Mm.
But I think she's partnered with what, Darrell?
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah. And she's like, is in this friendship. Okay, I'll just say real quick. I don't know anything about her, but I do like the fact that A, her partner's Darrell, and B, that she's like friends with this little the British gals
Yep.
crew. And I'm
Which
into
is a
that.
smart move for her, because where else would she have gone? It like I think they're fun people, they're welcoming, and I don't really know the rest of the new girls, or nor do I think that the vets would really kind of bring her in. So it was smart for her to like find a lane for herself really
Yeah.
quickly.
Can,
She was pretty good at Big Brother, but I think this guy messing with basically people messed with her game, and that's why.
right. So what was her Big Brother style? Was she a strategist? Was she just a great social game player? Was she a comp beast? What did she do?
I think she had a good social game and she was a good game player, but she kind of made that mistake of letting other people's games get in the way of hers.
Right.
So, and then like she didn't really have a good defense for it. So ended up kind of getting the short end of the stick over some stuff other people did. So I think if she's smart, she's going to try to fly under the radar to the best of her ability. And I think Darrell can end up doing that too, just because there are probably people on the show who weren't even alive when he was on the show originally.
Right.
So they don't really know. I feel like Darrell doesn't really command the fear and respect that he would, because there's just so many new people who don't know him.
Yeah,
Right.
that he would and that he should. These people should be targeting him, and no one seems to be targeting him, which is very strange.
It makes no sense to me. I'd be like, that guy's got to go, because the longer he's here, like once the challenges get to be more of the traditional, just one-on-one, out physicaling or outsmarting somebody, he's gonna do it.
Yeah. I mean, Corey knew to do that. I think it was in Dirty 30 or Invasion. It was one of those seasons. Yes. First episode, Corey was like, got the chance to send someone home and was like, I'm going to send home Darrell.
Crazy.
And that at the time I was like, no, but now I like completely get it and understand. Yeah.
Let's never forget he won the first 4 challenges that he was on. So different show, but still. All right, let's move on to another Amber. This is Amber Martinez. She is from
Are You the One? Come One, Come. Are You the One? Come One, Come All.
Right. And we watched this season. Did you see this season that she was on of Are You the One?
No, I've watched like the season that Devin was on.
Season 3.
Yeah, but I've never watched Are You the One besides that, and I don't know who she is, and I still don't know who she is.
She's Nelly's partner, right? They are the Are You the One team.
Yeah. Nelson's from Are You the One? So I think that's why he picked her. That's my theory.
Could be. I mean, so she has not gotten any FaceTime on this show. And it's one of the big things that the cast size suffers from every season is I don't even know who these people are. I'm like, who are you? I've seen her. I will say that she was kind of fun to watch for a little bit on her season of Are You the One? Ash and I are big fans of that season. We thought it was definitely one of the best seasons, in my opinion. I like the Devin season the best. I thought Devin was a complete, utter dickhead and villain on that show in like an incredible way. And in a way that he did not take, I mean, we'll save it for the Devin conversation, but I think he did not take that persona to the challenge, which I think was a problem, in my opinion. He was more exciting to watch then as a villain. But Amber really didn't get her storylines were, I think, in the beginning of the season of Are You the One? They were kind of there, and then they kind of they when her relationship broke up, I think they stopped following her around so much. Unsure on why they brought her on this show. She doesn't. She's small. Not that's bad, but I think smaller people tend to not do that well on this show.
And part of me thinks like, okay, this was filmed during COVID. Like, I don't think like are you looking to put people on this show to hook up? Because it just feels weird watching people hook up now. Like if it's
Yeah.
old or if it's before, fine. But watching that happen now, like you didn't put her on just to hook up with people.
Right.
So what did you see? Because I don't see anything. It's
Yeah.
not
Well,
my fault, but
on her season, she wasn't afraid to argue. She wasn't afraid to hook up, and she was pretty self-assertive. I don't see any of that now, but
no.
I do remember in her season, her feeling like a genuine character who would stand up for herself. So maybe they thought she would thrive in this environment. Unfortunately, she's Nelson's shadow, and Nelson's not even getting that much screen time.
No.
Right.
So
Which I think that might be a little purposeful on his part. Because he flew so high on the radar at the beginning of the last season.
Yeah.
That he had to become a whole new person by the middle of it. And I think now he's like, let me just hang back.
Remember that? Yeah. No more nice Nelly T or whatever happened.
Oh yeah, what did he was something last year. He was like, I'm dirty now, I'm bad Nelly.
Yeah.
Something where he decided he was gonna be a villain, and then midway through he was like, I'm a good guy now. And he started like going up and like just handing people his game. Like
Right.
During the
I
Anissa.
think he gave himself a name then too. Like double Nelly T this season. I think he gave himself like evil Nelly.
I think he
Yeah.
called himself evil. Yeah.
Which is like stop.
Stop,
like
like keep going. I find him to almost he's getting close to being the heart of the show, in my opinion. Just on how of like this guy can come back every single season and lose, and I'll be happy to see him come back every season.
Absolutely. Going back to last season when he gave up his basically his spot for Corey, we were all in a more emotional state. But the actual human tears dropped from my face because I was like, that's male friendship right there. People always say men aren't really that close. We don't really love each other. Like no, they do. And it was beautiful.
It was beautiful. Okay, so Amber, we wish you luck. Let's move on. We've talked about this guy already a bunch. Great photo, not a recent photo, but a great photo. Were you excited, Russ, when you found out Darrell was going to yet again make a return to the show?
Yeah. It was also knowing that there aren't that many people from his era on this season. I was curious to just sort of see him without the people from his years. Like that would be what, Anissa, Teresa to a certain extent, and Wes. Is that it? Oh, CT. So it's nice to see him come back without as many of the old school original cast people. So I'm curious to see what he can do. I know he's not getting a lot of screen time, but he's a tough out, so he'll be on the show for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
I found it was a little disappointing that I never got to get any there was no like hanging out and drinking group with like Wes and CT and Darrell and Anissa. Like,
Right.
I kind of wanted to.
You want the seniors to hang out at the senior table
a little bit.
Yeah.
I wanted to see these folks like hanging out and just kind of being like, wow, I can't believe we've been on the show and we're still on the show and Darrell's back. And there was none of that. And I think that's, there's probably some of it that we just didn't get to see, but it is a testament to how big the cast is. And like also Anissa, Wes, and CT do not think of themselves like Darrell probably thinks of himself as like, wow, I was a challenge vet way back in the day. They're like, I got to win this show again.
Yeah.
So my legacy feels right before I leave, like Johnny Bananas, I need my win so I can go and do whatever else I'm going to do in my career. And they're probably not thinking like, hey, let's hang out. We'll do an old school alliance. They consider themselves, I imagine CT considers himself like Fessy considers himself a threat in this game who needs to win this game somehow, and they're updating their games. And I wanted to see Darrell kind of fit in there, and maybe we will. Unfortunately, Wes is gone now, but maybe we will be able to see some sort of an old school alliance. But just give me a little Darrell. We haven't gotten any of it yet.
Yeah. I think that part, it's also he's with Amber, who hasn't really gotten. I think there's so many new people right now that have so little story that we're not going to see people tied to them for a while too, which kind of stinks.
Right.
But I think Darrell's going to make some moves.
Mm-hmm.
I agree.
I think so too. I can't wait.
Demetrius Michi Harris. Now, did you watch Michi when he was on X on the Beach season 3?
No, because I only watched X on the peak of the beach one, or the snow one,
the mountain one, right?
X on the Peak.
Whatever that was called, I watched that and I loved it.
Yeah,
with Georgia.
Yes,
right.
But Michi, I don't know, but I think I don't know that he's good at anything, but I think right now he might be playing a pretty solid social game just by hanging out in the room with the boys and absorbing information, but not sending information out, which is honestly the way to play the game as a rookie.
Absolutely.
Hang out with everybody, be cool, say very little, hear very much, and then make your moves when you can.
Yeah, I did notice that.
Like a friend.
I noticed him. He's in the bunks. It's like him and Leo are like in the bunks with like Kyle and Devin and what was Wes, and like not necessarily out in the house looking like they're aligned with them, but they're clearly, if Wes and Devin and Kyle are able to speak freely in the bunks with them, they've clearly spoken and been like, why don't you vote with us and we'll figure it out. I think super smart move by Michi. The only thing we've gotten from him so far is he like froze up in the water and Fessy had to save his life or something like that. But at least he got a little something.
Wes is the type he does bring rookies around. Like he'll bring rookies along and then eventually use them, but he brought them along and kind of put them in the right spot, and now he's gone. So I think they might have gotten enough of a rub just by being around Wes that Devin and Kyle see them as potential votes, which honestly right now, that's if I could be seen as somebody's vote, that's a lot. Like that's
huge.
Because I guess it's hard to determine the exact division in the house. I guess it's the TYB, Team Young Buck, and then like all the other dudes. But then kind of Leroy's doing his own thing. And then on the girl side, it's like Cam and her people, and I guess all of them. I don't know.
There's like a Big Brother alliance, and then there's like a new school challenge alliance, which is like, I think Cam and Tori, and like they're kind of working with Big Brother and the Young Bucks,
Well, it's the people who haven't won versus
the people who haven't won, but who are also part of the new class of challengers.
Yeah.
They've been there before, but they're not like CT.
But I think we're about 2 episodes away from like real lines in the sand being drawn, because only one person's going home every week. But I think Michi just made a smart move by quietly aligning with that like Kyle, Devin, other group of dudes that aren't Big Brother and aren't TYB.
Now, who's his partner? I have completely forgotten. Who's Michi?
Is it Michi with?
Uh-oh.
Is he paired up with
Liv?
Is that what it is?
It has to be Liv.
It has to be Liv, right?
Because Gabby's with Leo.
Amber and Amber are with Darrell and
Nelson.
Nelly. And then the rest are kind of paired up with, so it's got to be Liv, right?
Got to be Liv. Okay.
Boy, they really haven't gotten anything on this show yet. Now,
I love Liv, and I have only seen her on the show.
Well, we'll talk about.
Yeah, we'll get there.
I have a question before we move on from Michi. Do you have any knowledge of who this person was and why they got themselves into the MTV challenge system?
No clue.
Okay. It seems to me that they dated Black China at one point.
Oh, I think I heard that.
Which put them on, I think this man considers himself a man, which put Michi on the map,
on the radar. He's got a great smile. He's got personality. He's getting interviews, even though he doesn't seem to have anything happening in the house. I don't see any story happening for him in the house, but he's still talking about his life, talking about who he is.
Incredibly handsome. He's an incredibly handsome
I think
gentleman.
He's here for the ladies, to be honest. I'm enjoying him being on the show, and I think that was part of the reason he was cast.
We bailed on that season of X on the Beach, and so I'm wondering if he made waves. Right?
We got to find out. What happened.
If there's lovers and fighters, he's a lover.
Yes, agreed.
Okay, let's move on. Now, this one, we know Devin, but Devin has not been on this show for a bunch of seasons. Ever since I think he was chasing Johnny Bananas around on a dock, on like what was that, Invasion or something like that.
Look. And I think that's when Johnny was like, "Yeah, your dad would be real proud of you." And I think that's either sick or dying or something.
His dad had just passed, and then there was that horrible reunion where like they made the whole like Devin Bananas beef the center of the reunion.
Right. It was and he was so thirsty for some sort of name or storyline that season that it turned me. I was a Devin fan and it made me a not Devin fan versus Johnny Bananas, which is tough. I mean, you go up against Johnny Bananas, for the most part, I'm going to be a fan of that person, but Devin really turned me off on that. Now Devin is back.
Yes, he is.
And he's making waves on this show. How do you feel about Devin Walker Mulligan? He's got a hyphenated last name.
Devin is good for the show, depending on what the makeup of the show is. If Bananas was on this season, I would say please get Devin off of this show, because Devin does what Josh does, where he's like, you know us, you know how we have this historical beef. And that would, and Bananas would, that would just really frustrate me. And I would hate seeing Bananas probably talk to production and be like, get this guy off the show. But I think Devin is good because you need somebody who is going to create drama, and he will do that. I think that he's lucky. Every single time he's won anything, he's lucky. I think he went up against a really sad, dejected Wes that I think wasn't upset about going up against his friend, was more just upset that I thought I had friends and I don't, and I keep getting sent in here, and I'm the smart one. The smart one doesn't get sent in. So I think he was bummed and he left. And Devin, his histrionics jumping around after it reminded me why I don't like Devin. I think he's important to have on a show, because right now there are no like villain types.
Yes.
They paint him that way, but I don't really see him as a villain. He's just a guy who thinks he's smarter than everybody. Kyle is too likable to be a villain. So who's a villain?
Devin knows that he is there to make television.
Yes.
Like Devin is like, I know what I'm doing with reality television. I know my role, and he's fulfilling that. Where you have someone like Fessy who's like, I'm just here to win, which is honestly not that compelling.
Boring. Now, so the idea I agree. Devin cannot be a hero. He's just too smarmy, too sarcastic, too full of himself. Also, not really fit. You know, like he doesn't look like he's working for it on the off season. He's a smoke. You know, he just doesn't fit in so much. He feels like an outcast, but is full of himself, which kind of creates a villain-like character. But he is a complete underdog now this season. It's hard for me not to root to see him do well, you know, when the show comes back next week, because the entire house is out for him. There's a huge voting block right now that is Big Brother, and then whatever the Cam, whatever she's bringing other than Big Brother, I guess the Tories and the people of that level, versus Kyle and Devin, who Kyle and Devin are villains. They're both villains. So they're funny. But I like Kyle's them charming. Both. He's charming. I like him both. But remember, he's a scumbag when it comes to ladies. You know, he's just like he does whatever he can.
Maybe he's just waiting for the right lady.
Yeah, maybe, or whoever it is. I think, doesn't he always have a girlfriend he's cheating on? Like, isn't that like his thing? So, okay. So like I'd love to have him be the villain who I don't like, but unfortunately the way this is set up, I'm like in my brain, if you were to be like, so who on this season do you love? I'd be like, oh, I'm loving Cam, I'm loving Leroy. But then when I'm watching the show, I'm like, ooh, I hope Devin can get past this block that he's, you know, can he hurt? Can he get over this? I think that's inherent, right? In the sports story is the underdog.
So, but it's like now there's so many good competitors on this show that I view it through the lens of sports, where it's like, not everyone's going to be the Michael Jordan who wins every year. It's just not going to happen. So he's somebody I'm fine with going far, getting close to the end, and having somebody like Corey get his skull and get him out. I want him on the show, but I don't need him in the final.
I agree with that.
The final is, to me, it's like the final, like you played a really good game and you're an athlete. I think once you get to the final, you have to be good at all of the things, and Devin is not. So I like my finals comprised of all the people who were smart enough to get there, but also can complete one. I don't think he can complete a final.
I'm 100% with you there. That's a great point, and no, he's just not athletic enough.
No.
So let's move on.
Let's do it.
Next
I'm excited about this.
we've got Gabby Allen.
Like,
tell me about Gabby Allen. I don't know her.
Okay.
She is from
Gabby Allen is from season 3 of Love Island UK, which was the best season of the show.
Hands down.
She, however, despite picking from the best season, like Gabby, liked her, totally nice lady, the least interesting person in a season full of nothing but interesting people.
Could not agree more.
Like, I'm wondering if they did everyone say no from that season? Because everyone was more interesting, even like people who didn't make it for more than a few episodes, like I don't know, she had a weird name, Time Lexi, whatever. Like, there were people on that show that were there for less time and made more happen.
I mean, Theo's from that season.
Right.
Theo
and George.
And Theo was on there he was on that season of Love Island for like maybe 2 weeks or 3 weeks. And then he came to the chat. Yeah, full bad guy, came to the challenge, made a huge splash. Gabby was on the entire season, and I guess she had a lie detector drama where she failed a lie detector, and that was like one episode. I mean, I agree with you here, Russ. I'd love to see so many other people from that season. Give me Chris, give me Liv, give me Kim.
Liv would never do this show.
Oh my God, she would be so great on it though.
She would be excellent, but I see no world where she would do it. But like Cam or Chris or literally anybody else from that season, I would be fine with. I think maybe the one plus for her, she's like a trainer or a fitness trainer or a personal trainer, something like that.
Yeah.
I followed her on Instagram for a while when I started following all of them, but she has since been unfollowed because she's not interesting. No offense to her, but I hope she's actually good at stuff because I haven't really seen anything yet.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with that.
She's cried a couple of times.
I do like that she's part of this British girl group. I know I said it earlier, but that is probably the most exciting new friendship group I've seen. And it's really basically because I like Big T and this Liv person who I'd never seen before. But
if Big T is smart, one, I think Gabby may be good at stuff. I do think maybe she's like a fit person. She's trains or whatever. So she might be good at stuff. I think Amber B might be good at stuff. I think Liv could play a good social game. And I know Big T does. And a group can't just be nothing but social people who have no ability to get anything done. So I think that they can potentially bring, if Big T's the ringleader, this might be her best chance to get far. Having all of them around her. But
I agree. Yeah. Also, just like would also have loved Marcel. Just gonna put that out there.
And that would have been some inherent drama because I believe he cheated on her after the show.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. Bring 2 of them. That would have been great. It would have built-in storylines. People could have been like, why are they at each other's throats? I have to go find out. And then they could go and check out the other franchise.
Joseph for Marcel.
Now Joseph's not on our list because I eliminated everybody who could have fit in this grouping of people who had already been eliminated, which I think was just him. I mean, Nicole Zamata hadn't been on the show for a while, so she would have been on the list.
That's fine.
We sort of know. I mean, while we're here, Joseph, really quick, how did you feel about AGT's own Joseph?
Well, as I looked through all the cast photos, I've kind of rationalized why everyone was on it, and they all made sense. And then I got to AGT Joseph, and I was like, what? I don't care what he did. He could have done a bunch of stupid flips or whatever. If you're on that show, you don't go on this show. And I'm not trying to be, I used to be, I don't want the Are You the Oneers on there.
Right.
Well, no, they have inherent value. They care about their bodies and they're good at hooking up. This dude, this guy gives me not anything. He's not hooking up with anyone.
No, he's the least sexual person I've ever seen.
And I'm like, what did he do? Sing on that show? I'm guessing.
He did. I didn't investigate enough. He must have had a rabid fan base of people on TikTok or something. Like, what's in it for MTV? I mean, was there going to be a point where they were going to find an acoustic guitar and then all of a sudden,
I was done. I mean, I was done right off the bat, but then, you like give them a chance. MTV, usually they get casting right a lot of times. And the minute he was napping in the first episode, I was like, get him off the show.
I agree.
I agree, and they did. Thanks to Big T. Now, somebody who I was anticipating being on this show, rumored to be on last season, didn't work out, but is on this season, is Lio Rush. Lio Rush is a professional wrestler, and also like not just like it'd be one thing if it was somebody like Miz adjacent to where it was like, oh, this person you knew from WWE for a while, or when John Morrison was on Survivor and you're like, whoa, John Morrison's on Survivor, who's another wrestler who's wrestled, very physical athlete, was like a gymnast before, and also started on reality TV. This guy, John Morrison, he was on Tough Enough, which was the WWE reality competition show, which was fantastic. We should watch for this show at some point. But Lio Rush is somebody who I was like at the time, like fawning over his athletic ability and hoping that he would get good storylines on the product that I was watching. And then like gave an FU like over Twitter to the WWE, which is like unheard of when you're on television. It's one thing if you're not getting booked. This guy was a manager on TV a couple of times a week. And he gave an FU and then was gone and went back to the indie wrestling for a little bit. And then found himself on my other favorite show ever, which is The Challenge. So very big get for me. I hope it works out in his favor and in mine. I want to see some of Lio Rush because I know what he can do physically. I've seen it. Go check his highlights on YouTube. Russ, how did you feel about Lio Rush entering The Challenge?
I was pumped because I loved him as a wrestler. I liked him as a manager as well. I also like anybody who, as much as I love the WWE, I like anybody who says fuck the WWE. Yeah. Like outright, and not when they have something better going on. Like he bet on himself, having really no backup plan, and said, F it, I'm out. Like, I know I'm gonna be done anyway. And I like that as for just anyway. So I'm a fan of his forever. He's good. Like I think he'll be able, once the cast whittles down a little bit, I think he's one of the few people out of all these new people that they brought on that I'm like, I could see him doing this and winning. Like I could see him winning this. He's good at all of the things. I think he can play a solid social game as long as he gets past that like first third of the show where people are like, oh, rookies. I was hoping he would have paired himself with a vet just to stick around a little longer, because I think Gabby, I was really worried first episode and everyone was like, Gabby and Leo. I'm like, it's really easy to do. He might be good, so get him the hell out of there. But I think he's going to be good for the show. I think he could win. I think he really could win this. And if he doesn't, I think it's going to raise his individual stock and he'll go on and live a great life. So I'm happy to see him, but I hope he actually becomes a real member of the show, not an Amber.
I like his origin story. I like this whole like he has sort of like a punk rock DIY feel to me, which I'm into. Is he a storyteller? Because in this photo, he's wearing a shirt from The Moth. And I just don't know. Man of the Hour, The Moth. What is that? Is that a wrestling thing?
Well, no, look, Lear, his name is in the middle of it. So yeah. I think his thing was The Moth at some point because he was little and he flies around the ring, right? Is that kind of what it was? I don't remember that.
And this it's also Man of the Hour abbreviated.
Oh, right. Man of the Hour abbreviated.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
So yeah, I don't know. I didn't know much about Lio Rush. I remember hearing him because he is punk rock and he is independent, because he's one of these guys, and this happens in pro wrestling every so often. It's usually a good sign when the guy becomes kind of a main eventer and a name on the independent wrestling scene, and he's 17 years old. Like that was like the Lio Rush story. He was like blowing people's minds in the wrestling ring, and the guy couldn't even drink yet. It was like
That's cool.
there are other people who are like that, who he sort of
Yeah.
followed in the footsteps of, like a Daniel Bryan and people like that who are bigger names. But he was like a legend on the indie circuit, and he got taken over into the WWE system, and actually did pretty well for himself considering he's undersized. The WWE likes huge people. He's not huge, but they broke off, have a few brands, and ended up being on, the 205-pound weight.
Smaller guys, he's still pretty small.
And then here's why I'm excited about Lio Rush. What he got turned into a manager, which is basically somebody who brings another person down the ring and talks for them.
The microphone.
He's the guy on the mic. He knows how to build a character, and he knows how to talk. It's so important in building your stardom and building your own star power on the challenge by being able to talk people into the seats in interviews and stuff like that. And I'm hoping they allow him to put a little bit of the character, the Lio Rush character, into his real persona, and that he has the ability to be able to take what he's learned in professional wrestling and talking. And because there is connections between wrestling and the challenge. You need to be a fucking persona.
Yes.
CT is a fucking character.
And this, I don't know if he's a slide. Well, he's not a later slide, and I think that's inherently, and I like this person, but that is the problem with Fessy.
No,
Fessy,
yes.
Fessy
Sorry.
Fessy is built to do the challenge. He's built for it. It's like CT put himself into that shape, but like Fessy was born to do this, but he does not have the personality for it. Like, he is somebody who needs to be coached. He's somebody who needs to be managed, and he doesn't have it on his own, because when you leave him to make decisions on his own, he makes poor decisions. Even like not telling Corey when you're in his alliance, that's a poor decision. That is anything that if you spoke to even Anissa, who I don't believe he thinks is his partner long term, somebody would have gotten in his ear and be like, no, dude, no. Or the times where and the Big Brother, his reign on Big Brother he was the most physical threat on his season, but he was manipulated by all the wrong people. And at any time he was like, I'm not going to be manipulated, he made the worst decision he could possibly make. And he ended up leaving his side of the house worse off after his HOH, which, how is that possible? He just doesn't, he needs to be coached. And I think, like, if Leo was his partner or something, Leo would have him exactly where he needed to be. Fessy is not built to just be on his own.
About Fessy on Big Brother, I mean, if he's so boring on the challenge, and there's explosions everywhere. He must have been like watching paint dry. Like, can you imagine him? Did you watch him on the feeds, Russ? Like, I mean, what was he doing?
I wasn't watching the feeds.
He must have been so boring on Big Brother.
Drama circulated around him because there was one girl who was like his BFF in the house who was like actually in love with him. And then there was another girl in the house that he was also friends with, but like he definitely liked back. And it was the conflict was between like these two girls both liked him. And then eventually he picked one, and that was like a whole thing. Right. So the drama happened around him, but Fessy, and then there was this what was his name? Then there was another dude who would basically use him, like would just feed him the wrong information and make him do stuff. So Fessy was like this person who story happened around, but he was never the engine.
He was just a useful tool because he could win competitions, and so people needed him on their side of the house.
Yeah, but then when you left him to his own devices, he just made the absolute worst decisions possible. And I'm already seeing it in this season. It's like, dude, you can't just win the challenge by winning every challenge. That's not how you win the show.
Right.
And I think he thinks, well, I'm just going to win everything. And you won't.
No, doesn't work that way. You know, when we were talking about Leo being sort of punk rock, I was thinking the reason why I gasped when you brought up Fessy is because I feel like MTV in recent history has a tendency to sort of bring on sort of like these company men type characters, like Fessy is one, Casey, people who kind of just serve the franchise as like, this is our role and we fall into it. And there's just sort of like almost like punching in the clock type feel to it. And there's something about Leo's sort of like his punk origins, and that the thing that you guys are talking about, this making a name for himself on the independent circuit, that feels like exciting and sort of, it reminds me that, like, you can have people on this show that aren't just like cookie cutter reality. This is a job and I'm doing it and I'm clocking in, because that is really the feeling. And I do love Fessy and Casey. I like them as additions, but even Josh has sort of a company man type feeling to him.
It's that Big Brother alliance. It's Viacom. Like, all these people have been in the Viacom ecosystem for years now. So they know exactly what to say, exactly what to do. It's a very safe choice, picking anybody from any of those shows. But Leo Rutt, like, he's the most unsafe choice because he's a dude who wrestles and is tiny and said F you to the biggest company in wrestling.
Right.
I can't wait to see what he does.
Yeah, very exciting.
And I'm excited, and I really hope it pays off.
Now, a fantastic addition, in my opinion, to this franchise is Lolo Jones. I know Lolo from Champs versus Stars, or was it Pros versus Champs versus Pros? Because she's a pro athlete.
Yeah.
Right. So I thought she, in the limited scope that show has, and the fact that it's hard to manufacture real drama in the Champs versus Pros universe. I mean, they have since stopped doing this little spinoff, which I enjoyed as like a kind of a mid-season replacement or a summer replacement. I enjoyed it. So it's interesting to me that I was always hoping that they would bring her onto the show. And also, who was the other person that Louise Hazel was on that season as well.
Is my fave.
And she had buddied up with Wes on that show, and she became like a real strategist, and she was also another pro athlete. So I wanted them to integrate some of these people. T.O., I would like Terrell Owens to be on the show. He didn't like to be there, but it was fun for CT. But Lolo was great because Lolo brings drama. Lolo has some emotional issues she needs to work out on television, and I can't wait for it. So happy that she's here. So happy that in the first episode, there's already the only sparks flying in the house is between her and her partner, who we'll get to. But I love that it's not just about competing with Lolo. As a matter of fact, she's competed the shit out of every challenge, and no one even talks about it yet. It's not even a storyline. The only storyline is kind of like the drama she's bringing in a way. And me and Ashley have watched Champs vs. Pros, but we did not watch the Celebrity Big Brother she was on. Did you, Russ?
No, I didn't.
I heard she was a mess on that, and I need to go back and watch it. Lolo Jones, Russ, what are your feelings?
What an A+ casting choice. She does all the she does all the things. She brings drama. She's good at stuff. I'm concerned for her a little bit in a good way.
Yeah.
And she's also she's like in her mid to late 30s, and it's nice to see that we can still be a little bit crazy too.
Totally.
But
especially if we're virgins.
Yes. I think she's awesome. And as a former high school track and field coach, my kids love this girl. Ooh. So yeah, she's popular amongst the high school hurdling sect, in case you're wondering.
I love that.
So I already kind of knew her before Champs versus Pros and stuff like that. I just think she's great. I love that she understands what the show needs and is delivering it.
Yeah.
And doing that from kind of, Ashley, as you mentioned before, not from a company woman standpoint. Like, she's an outsider brought in, and she's doing a really good job. And I think MTV would be greatly served to like kind of take more of these gambles on these like outside interesting athlete types who have personalities. Because if the show is basically a sport now, you have to be good enough at the sport to be there, but we can't lose the drama. So we need those people.
So, it's interesting that you say the athletes that have big personalities. You're 100% right. I love that they finally broke down and put just the way this person is known is because she is an athlete, and they brought her onto the show because she has a personality. This we're talking a lot about wrestling, or I am, at least in this. There's a lot of similarities. They do this in pro wrestling. When somebody is a big fan of pro wrestling and happens to be an athlete, they will bring them in for a little bit, teach them how to wrestle behind the scenes, get them involved. It's usually like they're in the crowd. They kind of have a tussle with one of the villains of the show, and then all of a sudden they build this weird big pay-per-view around it. Lawrence Taylor and WrestleMania, what was it, 11 or something like that, or 12, versus Bam Bam Bigelow, which was maybe the best version of this. It could also go very left when you have Rodman, I guess. He was kind of fun, but he was not a great wrestler. But Dennis Rodman did this.
Mayweather in the Big Show, whatever.
Right.
This is a thing that they do.
This is the thing they do, and they're still doing it. I forgot the dude's name, but I don't know if are you watching NXT right now, Russ?
No, I'm not.
But are you aware of what's going on over there? Adam Cole is beefing
Pat McAfee.
Pat McAfee.
I watched that guy on YouTube.
Right. So Pat McAfee. By the way, is Pat McAfee the show, his sports show on YouTube?
Yes.
Is he alt-right or something? I don't know. I don't watch NXT really. I only watched a couple of the shows, but
I was nervous to watch it for a while because I felt like he could be.
I just saw. Here's how bad
the guy
the world
yelling
is.
on the internet, and he's white.
A blonde white guy yelling on the internet, and then in his avatar for his YouTube channel is an American flag behind him. And unfortunately, the world that we live in, that is a trigger for me, and I feel like it's not going to be what I'm looking for. But I like him on the mic on NXT. I kind of caught up a little bit the past week because I was interested in this. But he's very good at wrestling. He's good. He's got the skills to be on WWE. Lolo Jones has the skills to be on competition reality, specifically the challenge. And I think they should do more with professional athletes. Doesn't matter their age. They do it on Survivor all the time. They'll bring somebody on for a season. So that's a great point I hadn't even thought of. We want more athletes with some personality on there.
Yes, 100%. I agree. Give me. I like the UK people bring drama because they don't care about anything. They'll hook up with anyone and do it, and that's fun. And then they eventually get good at the show, and then we have some of these because I think MTV. It seems like they've gotten away from having nobody on their network older than like 25. So if you're getting away from that, then the challenge, and they're doing it to a certain extent, really has to get away from that too, because I started watching that show 20 years ago and I'm still watching it. Yeah. So get some more of these older people who maybe are past their prime as an athlete, but perfect for some stuff like the challenge, because they're not doing anything that some of these athletes can't do. Like, she inherently was good. Theo was inherently good because he is an athlete with a personality.
Agreed.
Get these people on the show.
They are getting away from the MTV is getting away from the Paulie D and the situation are like 55 years old. I mean, they're on every
MTV
day.
is smart and they're aging with their audience.
They should, and I'm glad. I'm very for it. Lolo Jones, I can't wait. I mean, we haven't even been able to see anybody reacting to the fact that she and her partner, who is up next, are the biggest threats on this show.
We saw Devin mention it
a little bit.
Like Devin and Kyle talked about it for like half a second.
So, I mean, let's move on here. Namvo.
Wow.
Okay, guys, I know you're not on YouTube with us, so you may be just listening, but we're looking at a literal Greek god.
Yeah.
Not literal, figurative Greek god. Chiseled, huge, Beastmaster. He came from
Ultimate Beastmaster.
Ultimate. He's an ultimate Beastmaster. Okay, Russ, your feelings.
Tell me what the show.
Yeah, I think it was like a Ninja Warrior, but it was just a Netflix only version of it. I believe.
There's a lot of people on the internet making fun of this guy because he doesn't talk a lot or whatever, and that I find. Listen, stop. He's kind of like Turbo. He's only like nice and seems to be hinged well. Like, I don't think he's a crazy person, which I appreciate.
I think he's wonderful and sweet.
He's jacked out of his mind, and he wasn't always. I looked at some before he was jacked photos. He just decided to do this one day. He was like a regular, super regular looking dude. And then he said, what if I got real big?
and he is huge.
He's
And
so, it's like he's scary. He's like, I'm almost a little bit concerned. Like, I don't think he has enough body fat. Like, I'm worried about him.
how he must be in this photo we're looking at. He must have taken those water pills to dehydrate himself. He's so cut. How did the men on the show and the women on the show allow Lolo and Nam to become partners? How did that happen?
Like, I really don't understand how that happened. Now, where they're thinking, oh, well, you know, they'll be physical threats, but they're dumb or whatever. It's like, well, you don't know that on the show, and you're actually all dumb. And two, those two people, even if they're not the smartest people in the house, most of the competitions, or at least the main challenges, are physical. They're gonna beat you in anything.
Yeah. How many eliminations in the crater have we seen that had any puzzle so far in the first three? None. They would have been Nam and Lolo would have destroyed anybody who they were up against.
I feel like the elimination puzzle ratio is probably like one puzzle to three physical. So I would take those odds if I were these guys. And Lolo or not, we don't know what I don't know their puzzle game, but it's probably people are either there's a few people who are really good, there's a few people who are really bad, and the most are just kind of average as it relates to puzzles. They talk a big game about puzzles, but most people are average. So let's say they're average puzzle people and significantly above average athletes, they can win this show. You guys are stupid for letting that happen. I would have never, even if I had my own partner, I would have been like, no, that somebody get in there. Like, we cannot have that. Like, no, it's too easy for them to win. Would you want to go into elimination with Nam doing anything?
God,
no, he's a beast. He's an ultimate
beastmaster.
And Lolo, I wouldn't want to. Lolo has the kind of energy that I don't want to fuck with.
No, at all.
No,
I don't even want to joke around with her.
I know.
No, I don't. I'm nervous that I even just said that. I would not touch her.
I'm very excited to see the two of them just trounce upon a team at some point.
I just don't think there's any way they're not making it to the final.
I don't know. We'll see. I mean, yeah, there could be a way if somebody infiltrates a team.
Or if people never let them get into the ring. Right. Maybe that's a strategy.
That could be a strategy as well. I mean, there's a lot of moving parts on this. It is going to be interesting to see how far they get. And I hope they get pretty far. Next up, Natalie Anderson, another person who's not in their 20s. Natalie Anderson is my age. She's 34 years old. And she is a winner of Big Brother Survivor season 29, which is Blood versus Water. She was a runner-up on the 40th season, spending all of her time on Extinction Island or whatever it's called. And I didn't even realize this. Her and her twin sister had already competed before Survivor on The Amazing Race twice. They did not win. But now she's on the challenge, and she's a physical specimen and also an incredible, like a CrossFit champion, let's just say.
And also has a personality.
Yeah, she's fun to watch. What do you think about Natalie Anderson, Russ?
Never saw her on Survivor, but I knew of her. Her legend preceded her. But just watching her in these first handful of episodes, it's hard not to root for her. Like, she's just awesome. I like people who are good at stuff, aren't great, and like are just not seem like good people. Like, she's a good person who's good at stuff and isn't gonna take shit. Like, that's a great combination. And I like when she yelled at Joseph, like, what are you like, stop child person thing. I like her a lot. I actually think her and Corey, despite like him being like, he's not dumb, but I don't know if I think they actually work well together, because I think he's connected enough to enough people and nobody's going to mess with her. So they have a really good shot. I think she might have a better shot with Corey than she had with Wes.
Absolutely.
I agree.
I think the target on Wes's back was just too big.
And you know
And
what?
never left.
You're absolutely right. She does. I think this last kind of trade up of partners that was forced by Devin couldn't have worked out better for Natalie or for Corey. I think that that is a step up for the both of them. And yes, Corey's not dumb, but he doesn't have the strategic mind to position himself perfectly for the finals that he always gets into. I mean, the guy gets into the finals.
Yeah, he makes it to finals.
He just it's always a struggle at a point for him, and it's hard to watch him get in there. We like Corey in this household. I know that he can be polarizing. I think
grew to like him.
Yes, absolutely.
I watched his Real World season, and I was like, this is a bad guy.
Right.
Like,
Oh, really?
wasn't even an expression yet.
He was a fuck boy in that series.
I've always loved him, but I didn't watch his Real
Well,
World.
listen, when he had his child, I think he softened a whole bunch.
I loved him because he was, the first time I saw him was on Bloodlines, and I loved his cousin Mitch. I thought they had a good
the
dynamic.
odd couple that was Mitch and Corey. Incredible.
They were really likable together.
Yeah.
I think Corey and Natalie work really well together, and I think like Natalie, I mean, I think she should be pumped because now she's got her skull, and like now she can kind of sit back with a person who's connected to enough people on this season that he's only going to go in if they win and he wants to. Like, I think he's in a good spot.
And you know what? It even, I think, bodes even better for her character on this show. Hopefully she continues to be on the show, that she was with Wes, understood why Wes is a good partner, and when Wes became a huge target, immediately had the chance to trade up and didn't, which I think positions her as a loyal person, and just makes her more likable on the series. So
she didn't have to make the move that she might have made. Like, she didn't have to do it. It happened. It worked itself out. Like, and it's part of the show is kind of understanding that luck is gonna bounce one way or another. It's what you do with it. And I feel like it's those really good players who can kind of pivot and make moves. And I think being in other reality universes like Survivor is going to position her for the long haul. There's no one is coming for her skull. Are you kidding me? You would be real dumb to do that.
Well, until somebody has to, which I think is what makes the ends of these shows a lot more exciting. Okay, so moving on here, we have Olivia Liv Jawando. What do we know
Shipwreck
about? Have you seen Shipwreck?
No, but I might start because
what is it? What is it?
I'm assuming it's like a UK style Survivor that's not as crazy.
Right, it's more sexy than
it's
stinky.
Like, I think it's like
our boat broke down.
Right. I don't think it's as serious as Survivor, but she made me laugh last week. I like her, but she made me laugh last week when she was saying that Tori wasn't even that tough.
Right.
But I'm like, but you're the one with like a maybe broken arm.
Right. So she made easy work of you and broke your arm.
It's hard. It wasn't even that tough. I'm like, well,
I don't know about that.
Both of your arms to break and only one did? Because I don't understand what you mean. But I like her.
I don't know why, but I immediately liked her the first episode. I expected not to like her because she was coming from a franchise I had never heard of or watched. And so I was kind of like, whatever. And then I don't know why, I just was like charmed in her interviews. And I will say it took me a minute to warm up to Big T. I wasn't immediately like one of those people that was like, oh, I love Big T so much. And Big T was also from the same franchise that I had never heard of. So I assumed, based on the fact that they both had this unknown past to me, that I would have sort of the same reaction to her. But I didn't. I liked her immediately. I don't know why. I need someone to figure it out.
Yeah, no, I like her. I like her a lot. She made me laugh with that one comment, but I like her. I think that, and I am similar to you. I do like that little crew. I need them to actually make a game move soon.
Yeah, I want them to flex their power because they have power in numbers here, and so I would like to see them.
And I can't really remember off the top of my head who everyone is attached to, but I'm sure there's one or two dudes between the four of them that really don't have a strong connection somewhere. So it's like 4 people is a lot, is a pretty solid voting block or influence block. So I'd like to see them actually use it. Like I know they're all down for each other, but you got to make a move, and I hope that happens soon. But I like her.
I do too. I'm excited to see what happens with her team. It's who is it? Liv and who? Oh, Michi.
Oh, right.
It's hard. It's hard, guys. Okay, let's move on. Okay, Teresa Jones, a legacy, a legend on this here series. Probably not. What I find interesting is they didn't give her any profile on the series
no flashbacks
to let us know. Neither did they didn't do it with Darrell either.
No.
But I think Darrell's reputation precedes him because he's one of the first big champions on this show.
Yeah.
And also he's a guy, and guys end up getting more of a profile on the challenge than the women do, at least historically. Teresa on probably as many challenges as Darrell. I don't know if she's a champion. She may have won once. I'm not too sure. I should probably have those stats.
It been like a team one or a multi-person. I don't think she ever won, but she was good. I remember her she had beef with Nani a couple times.
Yes.
I think they were friends and now they're not, or they weren't and then they were. I don't know.
Well, they beefed and didn't she date Leroy one season?
I think they put them on an X's because
they did.
I think they maybe they hooked up once and they really wanted Leroy and they really wanted Teresa. So we're like, okay, you hooked up.
No chat. We don't get anything. No backstory like that. Like we don't even get Cam's so good at interviews just to feed Cam that. And then for her to just give us a soundbite to look out for, well, she better, stay away from Leroy because he's taken at this point, and even though she's married to a football player. So something like that, a pro athlete. I don't know who it is. But so I guess there isn't, maybe it doesn't make any sense, or maybe they thought that was corny or cheesy. But give us something, a highlight reel, a highlight package. I want to know I need to remember.
The last time you can even get Corey doing it because Corey knows these players. He watched the show before he was on it, like he did with Darrell when he took him out in that first episode. Yeah. He could say, "Man, I haven't seen Teresa since," and then they could go through a couple of fun clips.
Or let Anissa be the person through interviews take us through why she's important to this show's history. I just think they dropped the ball a bit with her.
They did, and I ended up asking myself, why is she here? I don't, because she's been gone for she's missed the Total Madness war era, then the trilogy before that, which was ended in Dirty 30 or whatever that stuff was. She hasn't been around in 10 seasons, maybe, if not more. So that I feel like once you're gone for that long, I need to know why you're back, because you don't need to be here. You don't have kids you need to support like a lot of people who come back. So what are you here for? Are you trying to get the one win that you never got? What is your motivation?
That's a great point, because they did that with Brad when they brought him back for whatever invasion or vendettas. Yeah, he was like, I'm coming back. I've been through a lot. Now I'm here to win. And it's just give us, a one interview from her explaining her motivation.
And if we would have had Brad, we would have at least known, we would have at least gotten the clip, hopefully, of Darrell just pummeling Brad in the last challenge he was ever involved in until they brought him back and he got unceremoniously eliminated by Corey. But he's a boxer. Drunk Brad tried to incite the legend Darrell to get him kicked off the show, and it worked. But I don't know if he was willing to give up his face. He handed his face over.
I never need to see that clip ever again.
The best is when they show Brad's face, in the interviews from the next day. He's like a comic book if you wanted to show a soul and boxer's face. Just beat the hell out of him. Anyway, yes, Teresa, I remember she was kind of a shit talker, she had a lot of attitude, and she's so serious on this. She looks like she is compensating for the fact that she doesn't know anybody by being super serious. The only clip we've gotten from her on the show that wasn't an interview has been when they're all doing that fake deliberation before they all make, and she's like, all right, guys, wrap it up.
It's time to vote.
She's the mom is there who's just come on, guys, can we wrap this up? And then that was it. And it was what is Teresa here to do? Who's Teresa's partner?
Is it
Crickets?
Michi? Is it? Guys, who is Teresa's partner? Nick, bust out your phone.
I can't pause because I
hang
know
on.
our phones are gone.
I'll get this. It is Teresa is with.
Wow. Sorry, guys who are listening to the pod. We are looking this up.
Jay.
Jay.
Sweet Jay.
Love
Now
Jay.
Jay is excited to be Teresa's partner because
Yes,
Jay's
he
a
is.
fan of the challenge, and I loved that.
And he said her husband's a football player.
Yeah.
But like the most we know about Teresa is what Jay said. And it's
That
like,
is true.
that's not good. We
That's not
need
good.
people like, I need to know why you're there. Jay's just excited because Jay's a super fan and
Right.
he gets to be partnered with you. But I know why Jay's happy. Teresa, why are you here?
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
absolutely.
Like, you don't like maybe her football player husband like better. You can't go. I just give me something.
Give me something.
Give me a storyline. And you can make a storyline out of your personal motivation. That's all. Just say why.
Absolutely. I agree.
Okay, so that was all the people who are like relatively new this season. Is there anyone from that we haven't talked about that's like really sticking out that you have, you want to say something about?
Like whose games are you excited about from maybe the returning players?
We kind of did just mention Jay. I'm excited to see him back because I think that he proved that he's not the layup people think he is last season. So I'm excited, and it also looks like they've got a handful of smaller guys on the season. So I'm happy to see him in a situation where he could potentially be matched against people who make more sense. It looks like he's going to get a little bit of storyline in this next episode, which I'm excited for. Who else am I excited about? I'm excited. I know you guys like Josh because I think you actually do.
I love Josh. He's got so much. He doesn't have any quit in him.
Okay, but so we like Josh because we like the buffoonery. I mean,
He's got a big heart.
He's got his sound bites. He cries so much. He's kind of a baby. He throws tantrums like a toddler. I mean, all that, because I think people will be like, well, why do you like this person? Because I'm a reality TV fan. I understand how important a baby is to reality TV. It's funny. He makes me laugh. And it's moved into a thing where like, look at this fool. We're laughing at this guy to a like, aw, Josh, I miss Josh,
I love him.
and his dumb ways.
I messed up. I went and watched. He's the reason I actually started watching Big Brother over the summer. I was like, well, you know what? Let me find out the origin story on Josh. So I watched his season because I just couldn't fathom how he won. How could this man
right? Absolutely. I asked it. We've Ashley and I crushed a whole shitload of Big Brother, and maybe we could get on a separate podcast and we could talk because you're a latecomer to Big Brother as well as we are. So
we started this
I would
year.
love to pick your brain just in Big Brother terms. But we've already, we're so knee deep in the challenge right now, so we'll stick with challenge. But you're right. I have the same question. Now, I got that question sort of answered for me by sort of seeing clips and through Ashley looking. But what did you find when you actually watched the show?
One, he's actually dialed down on the challenge. What we see on the challenge is like 75% of Josh.
Incredible.
We have to watch this season.
You're missing 25%, and it is like almost unwatchably obnoxious here.
Yeah.
But and every single one of his diary rooms was full on yelling, full screaming directly at the camera, and like saying like your boy, like it was awful. But he only won. He didn't win. Another guy lost.
Yeah. Wow.
And who was he up against in that?
Paul.
Paul.
I can't remember his last
so
name.
Paul is like they talk. See, I don't know, but I know that Paul is like a strategic, like evil master, right? Who kind of manipulated and double crossed, and he got Christmas to do all his bidding, right? Is that that's what I've.
Josh and both actually Josh and Paul were using Christmas to do their dirty work, and she did it, and then Josh the only time he needed to win something was in the end, and he did, and he cut Christmas because he thought he'd have a better chance of beating Paul. And Paul made so many people angry by his double dealing, which was really just good gameplay.
Right.
That I think there were just burnt people that were like, you know what, F it. I'd rather give Josh $1 million than you win.
Yeah.
So Paul played a better game.
And I heard that Josh in his exit interviews kind of explained what was going on to everybody in a way that made the jury like him more, because he was like
he
honest.
would say why it happened, and I that was the first time I'd watched Big Brother, and I haven't really seen a lot of other people do that as much. But yeah, he would say, oh yeah, there's this many alliance and this people, and Paul said to do this, so this is why we like he was like, I love Paul, I love Paul, I love Paul, but every opportunity he took to be a little sneaky, he took it. But
it's interesting. Yes, that's how he won, and does seem like to me to be a snaky way to win the game. But from watching, I've now watched 4 or 5 seasons over this past year, and I'm realizing that is the game.
yes.
Because you get so many more. It seems like, I don't know why, but it's just you get a lot more bitter jury members who vote on who they like rather than who they think should win the game.
Right.
In Big Brother than you do. At least there's been double the amount of seasons of Survivor, so the same deal happens. You have to kind of vote at the end with this jury has to vote, and it seems like they seem to give it up for better gameplay a little bit more than Big Brother. Something happens in the house. You get close to people in a house where you really feel burnt by them, and then eventually don't want to give somebody who out strategized you the win. And we had just watched season 14, which was the season that Ian wins initially. Yes. And Ian is in there with the legend Dan, who won season 10 with a unanimous vote. Dan does this Josh thing every time he double crosses everybody, and every time he eliminates somebody, he very nicely tells them why they had to go, but why he does a compliment sandwich, why it was important to eliminate you, because I just couldn't beat you. And here's the thing. So there is that going into Josh's season. There was a precedent there, and I guess Josh just maybe understood how to do that. But Dan is a more likable character than Josh is, because Josh is physically imposing. He's also kind of a whiny baby. There's nothing that happens with Dan that would make you dislike him by hanging out with him, really. He's just quiet. He's a Bible beater, but whatever,
And Josh's conflict style, like you're like this big baby, but your conflict style is like straight out of like a middle school girl's playbook.
Yes.
It's like you're gonna be a mean girl to anybody and like be nasty and like and talk all the shit in the world, and then somebody does it back to you and you cry. Like you can't. If he was able to take what he dished out, I would actually like him.
Yeah.
But
his maturity level is very low.
Oh, it is. And he is a millionaire.
Yeah, and he's a millionaire.
So, what do I
know? He'll never win the challenge.
No.
So I'm saying that right now.
He's turned half that house into bitter jurors, as it were. Like I can't see a world where they would say, okay. And Nani and him, like I don't see how that's an upgrade for. I don't see how Josh is an upgrade for Kyle. I get it that I know Nani is very personality driven and she has to like you to work with you, but Nani, you're with Josh, who's nobody.
How good? Ashley and I was talking about this. How good would Nani be on Big Brother?
She's built for it.
She is Big Brother. I can't wait till they need to start flipping it on the other side. I need some challenge people on Big Brother. It was rumored that Bananas was going to be on a Celebrity Big Brother for a long time. Fuck Celebrity Big Brother. Just put him on the regular Big Brother, because I want to see how these people will fare in a house like this. And I think Nani, who all she does is kind of lay around, smoke cigarettes, and shit talk, would be fantastic on a game like Big Brother. There's some people who need to flip over. Well, listen, Russ, this has been incredible. We love your takes on everything. We're so happy that you are as big as a fan as we are, and that we can lean on you to hear your opinions on everything. For those that don't know, Russ and I used to do a show once a month at
the longest running show at the Creek in the Cave.
And it will stay that way because the
Yep.
Creek in the Cave unfortunately folded in the goddamn pandemic, and maybe it'll be back in some other form, but unfortunately our venue is no longer. Not that we could go there at this point in time, but Russ, I hope to be able to perform with you again in New York City, and I'm sure that we will be able to eventually. But until then, I'd love to have you come on our podcast again, maybe mid-season, to do kind of a mid-season recap, and we could see how you feel with some of these storylines play out.
I also feel like we could do a whole episode just about Cam's game, which we did not even get into, but it feels like we all have a lot to say about it.
I have questions and answers.
Excellent. And we have to trade notes on Big Brother because I'm curious on the seasons that you watched, and we can recommend. Did you crush them all? Where did you?
No. I got nervous for myself at the clip that I was consuming Big Brother, so I took a long break. I watched 19, 20, 21. I believe we're on 22. Was this current?
Yes.
one?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I watched 19, 20, 21, 22, and then I doubled back on 16 and was going to do 17 and 18 and then start at the bottom. But that I realized the pandemic isn't going anywhere. So
You got to watch, sorry, Nick, to interrupt, but you have to watch 2. That's my favorite season. Then you have to watch 10, Keisha's birthday, which is an iconic episode, Keisha's birthday. And then you have to watch the one we just watched,
which was 14.
14
so,
with
10,
10,
honestly, yeah, because we've watched a lot. You actually have the opposite knowledge that we have, because I went back and we started watching. So we watched 2, we watched 10, we watched 14, we watched I watched 7 on my own, which was the first All Stars. Because that was we watched all the Janelle seasons except for her original season, which was season 6, which is the Janelle and Kaser season. But I'd love to compare notes with Big Brother on crushing it over the pandemic. Russ, you're a fantastic guest. Thank you so much for being there for us. You're a great friend. We're gonna close our podcast out now. So I guess folks, there was no challenge this week, so luckily you got to have a great conversation with us here and listen to that. But next week we will be back with a challenge recap, and as always, Mondays we drop our normal episode. And yesterday or the day before, we dropped our second Patreon of the month, which is over on patreon.com/realityblows. So thank you all for listening. We love you, and good night.
Bye.